What's going on, guys, and welcome back to WrestleRant, where every single week I, Graham Giuseppe Matthews, break down all the pay-per-views that I watch on the WWE Network as well as on the Global Wrestling Network. Today we're talking NWA, WCW, Great American Bash, 1989. And as always, I do mention the WCW part of the title. I include that in the title of these NWA pay-per-view reviews. You're probably asking yourself, it's not a WCW pay-per-view. Why is he including the WCW company name in these reviews? Well, it's pretty simple. They're included in the title of the shows on the WWE Network because they're available under the the WCW pay-per-view category of the pay-per-view section on the network. So that's why I include the WCW name despite it being a full-fledged NWA show. Trust me, I understand. I get it. I'm not stupid. This was a great show, though. This might have been one of, if not the best, NWA pay-per-view I've seen to date on the network. This was an excellent show from start to finish. There were a lot of great matches, especially in that second half. Like, matches I think even by today's standards were awesome. And I know on the other WCW shows I've reviewed, there's been a few really, really good matches, like the Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat matches from the past two pay-per-views I've reviewed here in the network, or rather on WrestleRant from the network. And, you know, those would be like the saving graces of the show. There would be a few other decent matches, one great match, and that was about it. This show, on the other hand, I thought had a lot of great matches. Not just one great match, but multiple great matches. So let's break it down. We had a War Games match on this show, so because of that, we had two rings available throughout the entire event. And as a result, to kick off the show, we had a two-ring King of the Hill Battle Royal and this was a fucking mess. This felt like something I would see in TNA 15 years ago. So we would have one giant Battle Royal and one ring. And when you were tossed over the top rope to the other ring, a second Battle Royal ensued. And then normal Battle Royal rules would apply for that. And the last two people standing, so you would win one Battle Royal in one ring. One person would be left standing in that ring. And then someone would win the other Battle Royal in the other ring that was a result of the losers from the first Battle Royal. If that makes any sense whatsoever. It was a fucking mess. It wasn't terrible, but it was very confusing if you didn't listen to the rules. So I had to go back a few times just to kind of familiarize myself with the rules because it seemed very confusing on paper. In the end, it didn't matter anyway. It went about 10 minutes. The two winners of the two Battle Royals were supposed to then fight it out for like a cash reward, a money reward of some sort. It was Dan Spivey and Sid Vicious, who were being managed by Teddy Long. And they were partners anyway. So instead of deciding to fight each other for the championship, or rather for the money, not a championship, they decided to split the cash halfway. So they didn't have a match. It was a pretty bad finish. It was a pretty disappointing ending, but I could see why they did it. So it was kind of a clusterfuck, but thankfully they got it out of the way early and left the rest of the show to be good, very, very good, as we kind of go along here. We had Bill Irwin taking on Flying Brian Pillman, I should say. Got to specify that because he did win with a great crossbody off the top rope, did Brian Pillman, Flying Brian. This was a fine match, really not that good, but the finish was good. Everything else was kind of long and kind of dragged. It was a 10-minute match when it really probably shouldn't have been. But Flying Brian, the guy was a star. I thought he came across well here. He shined way more than Bill Irwin did, and the finish was well done. Overall, though, this was kind of a dull match. We had the Dynamic Dudes taking on the Skyscrapers in our next match. And again, another match that went way too long. And 9 to 10 minutes really isn't that long, but for a match that offers almost nothing, it is too long. It really should have been shortened to maybe like 4 or 5 minutes, if that. So the Skyscrapers went over. It wasn't really that exciting. The Skyscrapers, by the way, are Dan Spivey and Sid Vicious. So after winning, quote-unquote, the two-ring King of the Hill Battle Royal earlier in the evening, they came back and won that match. And by the way, Dan Spivey, I'm looking at him like, why does this guy look so fucking familiar? And then I looked him up, and the name sounded familiar too, and then I realized, holy shit, that's Waylon Mercy from WWE, from like a few years after this. I believe, he left NWA to go to WWE to do the Bray Wyatt-esque gimmick, and it went nowhere. But still, that's where I remembered him from, and he was pretty successful in the NWA alongside Sid Vicious as these Skyscrapers. But yeah, that match itself, these Skyscrapers and Dynamic Dudes, was kind of boring. And this is where things really started to pick up, in my opinion. Of all matches, the tuxedo match between Paul E. Dangerously and Jim Cornette, who had been going back and forth for many, many months, two very prominent managers in the NWA at this point in time. They had been kind of battling back and forth for months, including at the last pay-per-view I reviewed. And they finally had their feud culminate on this show, Jim Cornette emerging victorious in their tuxedo match. And the cool thing about the match was that it would have been very easy for them to go out there and have a typical throwaway comedy match that's not really all that funny, but they took this seriously, and that's what I liked about it. There was more psychology in this than almost any other lower-level undercard contest you will probably ever see, at least most of them anyway. The crowd was into it too. So I loved this a lot more than I thought I would. The match was way better than it had any right to be, and Jim Cornette did go over. In tag team action, we had the Varsity Club taking on the Steiner Brothers. Very good match. Did not go long enough at all. It was really just a brawl more than anything, but the crazy-ass rules with the Texas Tornado, it was a tornado tag team match where you can kind of go anywhere you want and you don't have to tag in and out. I thought that made this a very fun match. The Steiner Brothers went over, again, only 5 minutes in length, but it was the best 5-minute Texas Tornado match you'll ever see. Not everything was perfect, mind you. It wasn't an amazing match, but for the time given, it was a lot of fun. For the NWA World Television Championship, we had Sting defending against the Great Muta. This match was awesome. Again, how does the fucking other matches go 9 to 10 minutes, but this only gets 8 or 9 minutes? The other match I just talked about, Steiner Brothers and Varsity Club, that went 4 minutes. Like, how do those matches go longer than this and that? But whatever. This was a great match. They really worked well together. Sting style meshed very well with Muta style. The crowd was into it. Again, they really made the most of the time they had to work with here. A lot of great exchanges. The chemistry was through the charts, like I said. The finish was a bit dumb, though. They went to the old, double pin. Sting hit Muta with a back suplex, and his shoulders were pinned down to the mat, too. So Sting did technically retain the World Television Championship here, but a lot like the last NWA pay-per-view, there was a hook throughout the show. Would he be stripped of it? What's the controversy? They said, I think, they would relinquish the championship from Sting. I don't remember, but they did address it later on in the show. The match itself was great. The finish was just kind of disappointing. And our final 3 matches on the show I thought were fucking phenomenal. A lot like the World Television Contest. World Television Championship contest. We had Lex Luger versus Ricky Steamboat for the NWA United States Heavyweight title. This was awesome. Luger had a lot of great matches with Ric Flair, and he had a lot of great matches with Ricky Steamboat, too. Luger went heel, as I talked about in my last NWA review. He went heel shortly after regaining the United States Championship, and they had plenty of time here, only about 10 minutes, but it was an awesome 10-minute match. Steamboat really brought the best out of Luger here. He was a vindictive heel. The crowd was into it. They really wanted to see Steamboat come out on top and win the championship. So the thing with this match was that Steamboat and Luger had a lot of bad blood built up. They had a lot of bad blood built up. And then Lex Luger, or rather Steamboat, wanted this to be a no DQ match. Luger said, I do not want this to be a no DQ match, because if Steamboat gets himself DQ'd, then I retain my title, and that's exactly what happened here. Steamboat was so fed up with Luger's bullshit that he took a chair, just went wild, and beat the shit out of him. So he got disqualified. Luger's still the champion, but Steamboat really got the last laugh because he attacked Luger in the end. He lost the match, didn't win the championship, but still, he got some sort. He had a measure of revenge here by attacking Luger with the chair. So it kept the feud alive. The DQ finish actually made sense in this case, and the crowd went nuts for everything they did. So again, this was awesome. The chemistry, once again, through the charts. Off the charts here between Luger and Steamboat. We had our War Games match of the evening. The two teams consisted of the Road Warriors, the Midnight Express, and Dr. Death Steve Williams on one side. On the other side, we had the Fabulous Freebirds and the Samoan SWAT team going at it. About a 22-minute match. Again, great stuff here. A lot like any other War Games match you would see. And a lot of these War Games matches do kind of feel the same, but in the best way possible. They're chaotic, they're fun, they're exciting, they're unpredictable, they're suspenseful. That's exactly what this match was. It didn't really have an epic feel to it, which I wasn't too surprised by just because it wasn't the main event. But everyone played their roles well. The 20 minutes just flew by. And it kind of followed the same formula as most other War Games matches, but again, not in a way where it felt repetitive or tiresome. It was exciting, the crowd was into it, it was a lot of fun, and the baby faces went over in the end. Really, everything you could have asked for from this match, they delivered on. Then you get to the main event for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, Terry Funk and Ric Flair. Ric Flair was the champion coming in here. I talked briefly about this on the last pay-per-view when Ric Flair, I think, had beaten Steamboat for the championship. I'm not sure if he retained it. I think he regained the gold from Steamboat. So then after the match, he gets attacked by Terry Funk. Terry Funk went fucking nuts on Ric Flair, laid him out, broke his neck in storyline. Flair was out for a while, and they did this great interview before the match with Flair, where he was talking about how, I don't want to warm up. I wanted my first match back to be a money match, to be a marquee match, defending the championship. I don't want to warm up on TV. I don't know if my neck's going to give out or not, but I'm going to go in there and give it all I have. And it was fucking awesome. Flair is a great heel, don't get me wrong, but the guy does not get enough credit for being as strong of a babyface as he was at certain points in his career, including here. And the match itself played off that, animosity very, very well. The storytelling was fantastic. The hardcore element of the match succeeded as well in getting me invested as a fan. And this match took place fucking 30 years ago. Everything about this was awesome. You could feel the bad blood between the two. They went to great lengths to inflict pain on each other, pain and punishment. And you can feel it as a fan just watching the match. They took their match all around ringside. The psychology was phenomenal with Flair's neck and him selling that. And it's like the commentators are talking about how one bad bump could end Flair's not only title reign, but his entire career. And then Flair won clean. And it wasn't something like, oh, that's what a disappointment. Terry Funk should have won. No, the way they played this off was that Flair won on a inside cradle. Terry Funk goes nuts. Starts laying out Ric Flair again, shades of the last pay-per-view, with the help of Great Muta, who comes out. And then because Sting was feuding with Muta at that point, Sting comes out to make the save. So Sting and Flair go nuts on Funk and Muta, cause them to flee from the ring. Everything about this was fantastic. Kept the feud alive, built to a tag team match at the Halloween Havoc pay-per-view later on that year. Again, amazing main event, just straight up smart booking all around. And that closed out a great show. This was a really, really good show from the NWA. Easily one of, if not the best NWA pay-per-view I've ever seen up to this point. The Great American Bash in 1989. If there's any one match to watch, it would have to be the main event between Flair and Terry Funk. It does help if you go back and watch the angle they shot on the previous show, but it's still a great match in a vacuum. The War Games match was great. Luger and Steamboat was great. Even Sting and Muta was awesome. Even the Steiner brothers and the Varsity Club, for as long as it lasted, there was a lot of fun. Even the fucking Tuxedo match was better than it had any right to be. So definitely check out this show. It's a very special show from the NWA, the Great American Bash in 1989. It gets 2 thumbs up from yours truly. So with all that being said, guys, be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, subscribe to the channel for more content. We'll be back next week here on WrestleRant breaking down another pay-per-view from the WWE or Global Wrestling Networks. Until then, guys, have a great rest of your weekend. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.